Do this. Con los moquitos en el culo, todos vamos a gozar. Let's clean up. All right. Hey guys, welcome to Established. I appreciate you joining and thank you for listening. Uh, there's not too many people that listen right now, but eventually we'll get enough. Those two people that listen, thank you. You're amazing guys. I don't want to name you because then I'll shut you out. But this episode is for those guys who are fathers, and those guys. I'm not excluding the paternal, like the father, the mothers that take care of the kids. This is mainly for that guy that has become a father and has taken pride in being a father, and he doesn't get credit for whatever he's doing because no one's going to give you credit. But I am going to give you credit today because this is a tribute to those guys that do not get the credit. And it all starts from the beginning when you put that seed in. And if you're there for the labor, if you're there for everything, and uh, some people appreciate you, well, those some people might be your children. Of course, if you do have a wife and they appreciate you too, then that's even more amazing. So this episode is for you, the Father's Day that's coming soon, and I hope that you get a gift. Maybe not a tie, maybe not shoelaces, but if you do get something, congratulations. This was your week. And the thing is that this is also for those that are not fathers yet, that they don't have any kids and they're afraid of becoming parents. And I want to take the fear away from becoming a parent of the responsibilities because the responsibilities are always going to come, but there's not much to it. In the end, if you keep it simple, it's going to be a great journey. And being a father, it doesn't have to be where you have to be on the child all the time or you have to be financially stable. You just have to want to have a child that's not gonna is gonna have some type of success in his life or her life, and you're gonna love the part where you pick them up, they see you, they get all happy, and all those things that go when becoming a parent is the most beautiful part. The difficult part is when you have somebody that hates your guts and they don't want you to be a parent because you stink because you've been doing a lot of dumb shit in your life and you haven't proven yourself. But we're not discussing the guys that are failing as much as the success for all those who are fathers. So I want you to sit back and relax and listen to this pod because this episode is for you. And if not, those who have potential who want to become parents and you don't know, you're in the fence. This is the point. This is the time when you should listen to this episode. If any time in any, it has nothing to do with child support. It has nothing to do with the repercussions. It only has to do with being a father and preparing yourself. And if you're prepared, just so that you see what you're doing, and the fruits of your labor are positive. So congratulations to you again, the father of the year, and I'm drinking to that. So yes, I have my wine. It's a red wine. I don't normally drink it, but someone offered it to me. Babe offered it to me, and I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna drink it slowly. I'm gonna sip it because it messes up with your teeth. So yes, have a great one. We're gonna be back in a few seconds after this sloppy drink. Hmm. All right, all right, we got you. So of course, I'm Rob D, your host. Welcome to Eclectic. Nope, this established wrong show. I'm doing too many different things. I took my time to make beats again, and I think I'm doing pretty good. So I just made one a couple hours ago, and I'm all into this whole beat making thing because it's so comfortable too. It's so calming and so entertaining and time consuming, but yet it feels like you're doing something positive, constructive, and of course artistic. And with that said, let's go into this episode. Well, uh, first, the part where you know that you're going to become a father, right? You accept the fact that you're going to become a father, and you see a little critter coming out the nanny, and you're like, "That's me." It doesn't matter if it is yours or not. It's not about who put the seed; is who is raising the child, right? And if you decide to raise this child as your own, there's a growing company of stepfathers out there that are assuming the responsibilities of the other person, and that sometimes is not a responsibility. It just comes with the package, and sometimes the other father, he's in the picture. You just joining into this journey and being part of this experience. And sometimes you don't like it, but most of the time you have to accept it. That's not their fault. It's not your fault, and it's definitely not the person you're with is fault, because you just met that person at the right time and with the children. So just man up. And sometimes you're not ready, but I would say you should never feel completely ready, because if you get too cocky, you might do a horrible job as a parent, right? The fear of being a parent is not that you can't afford a child, it's that you don't have time to dedicate to the child, right? And that could happen. There's the part where you're so busy doing different things. Let's say you have a child and you want to go out and you have a meeting, or you have to go to work, and no one's there to take care of the child. You have to call in sick. You might risk of getting fired, because that's what part of life is. So when you're a father, you divide the time in half with that person you're with, and you just have to be there whenever they need you as much as you can. The one of the things is like changing diapers, right? But all the basic stuff. You're changing diapers. You're making sure that the child doesn't eat a nail, right? Or just poops, everywhere. Like that has like chronic diarrhea, right? A child has chronic diarrhea. It might be because you fed them something that expired. It has happened to me, so I'm not really saying it's not right. It's just that it could happen. You can actually feed a child some dangerous stuff, poison, milk, expired milk, but it's okay. That's part of the learning process. So as the child is growing up, you're becoming older, you're becoming wiser. It's the best time to have kids is actually after you're 32, your 30s, mid 30s, right? But if you want financially stable, if you start off like at 24, 23, by the time you're 35, the child is 30 and he's 10 or she's 10, and you can, be closer to that child. So bearing kids late, there's pros and cons. I feel like when you are a father at a late stage, you're more mature. You know what to expect. You've seen it all, so most of the time it won't surprise you to see certain things. But if you're a parent late like early in the career, where you just got out of college, or you just 22 years old, and you have this child and you want to have this child, then your energy and abilities to make time for the child, if you do make time for the child, is going to work out, because by the time you are old enough and the child is 10 or a teen, you're old enough to share and be part of their lives as they get older and they become more aggressive, or if it's a female, they're going through growing pains. And you get to be there as a father to take it to the prime, to understand what she wants to do. You're more willing and more understanding. You have more patience. While if you get older, you have more patience, but you don't have the strength to listen to everything, because you're probably tired. You're probably doing too much. So there's a pros and cons. If you're both at the same age where you look like you're, well, not as a father, no, but if it's the mother, normally they look like they're sisters, and like they're sisters. That's a good thing. But as a father, if you're both the same age, you look young enough that the child is not embarrassed of taking you to school, then that's pretty cool. But if you're at an age where when the child is in their teens and you're like you're the grandpa already, that's gonna mess up the vibe. And sometimes in my situation, if you want to play basketball and you get your ass kicked by your kids at an early age, those are signs that you're not gonna be as dominant as you want in an argument or anything. I get my ass kicked in games all the time. I suck at 2K. I thought I was going to be better, but I was never much of a basketball gamer. So I got my ass whooped. I get my ass whooped all the time. As a matter of fact, my little character is not even on the screen when I'm playing. I'm looking at the wrong guy because my character is in the far right where the screen isn't, and I'm playing with the guy that I think he's in the screen, but he's that's a whole different player. So that's unfortunate, but that's how life is. Now, you could be a father that doesn't care. He's a loose father. You leave it all for the step kid. I mean, not the stepfather, and that's a shame. That's a shame. The things in being part of a child's life is that there's a joy in watching them grow, hearing all the stuff. I mean, when you're a father, you hear some crazy stuff from these kids, especially when the vernacular, when they say something that's new, and you're like, "What the heck did they say?" I mean, any word that comes up, you hear it, and sometimes it's an afterthought, so you repeat it because the new song, the new stuff. So they keeps you. If you really engage with your children, you'll be engaged with the time. So you won't be a prehistoric dinosaur when it comes to communicating with other people around your neighborhood because most of the time a parent that's involved knows all the words that are out there and whether they want to or not has to adapt because if not, you're just going to be second guessing on what they're saying. At one point, you don't want to understand what they're saying, but it's good to know, when I first heard glizzy, that was years ago, but I thought it was a glazed donut. It's not a glazed donut. So if you eat hot dogs, that works for you. But nevertheless, that is just one of the things that you will be part. So contemporary, you be part of today's society, growing with the new music. It depends on what's in and what your child is into. But most of the time, you're gonna listen to new music. So it helps you stay alive and stay young. They put some meaning in your life, and when you do discuss it with somebody else, somebody like your counterpart, like your boys, you guys are all at the same age. Let's say in my situation, I'm 45, so my boys are 40s in the 40s, and some of them in the 45, some of them like 50 almost, and you could tell who's in and who's not because either the kids are too old already and they moved on and now they're stuck in a time lapse where they're not aware of what's going on, or you're getting them too young so all the new cartoons that are out there. Once you become a father, you're going to enjoy watching Disney. That is why Disney is so hot. If you have your daughter and she wants to watch Turning Red, you're going to watch that sometimes 3 times a week, 4 times, sometimes 5 times a week, right? If you listen to, like, lately we have Super Mario and you got peaches, 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 peaches everywhere, you're gonna be pieced out because you're gonna listen to that a lot. If you have kids, that's all they want to listen to. Now you're gonna watch it, and at one point you're gonna like it because you watch it so much. You're like, that's pretty cool. And as a father, that's part of the good stuff. You enjoy bonding, evolving with your child. There's other things, the responsibilities like going to the doctor, the fear that child is sick, right? That as a father, you at first, you're like, oh, but once you have a bond and you worry about this child, you don't want this child to get sick, and you worry when they're sick. You see them drowsy. If a child falls, God forbid the child falls and breaks a leg or something, that is the scariest part. Even if you don't care, just watching a child in fear, like they broke a leg in the pain, you want to take that pain with you, and that teaches you, love and compassion. So you become more of a mature, well-rounded individual as a father. There's the component of economics, right? The financial part of this, and yes, it is more expensive. And I'm just saying this as a guy that lives with the lady. There's a X amount of money that you're gonna have to come up with because inflation is real, and someone's gonna have to help feed this family, and you can't just eat and have sex. It's like a barter system where you're in the family, you have to provide something in the family, and sometimes it's not just high fives and advice. And that's when most of you guys might be afraid of becoming a parent because you're like, I don't have time to not only to dedicate, but I don't have the money. I could barely afford to take care of myself. All I can tell you is this: the money part. If you work, you're gonna spend the money anyway. Just a few extra bucks here and there, it changes lives. And of course, in this economy, a father doesn't like. I would say you don't need a partner to succeed. You just gotta stay more focused, be more disciplined, and you understand that you can survive without another person. But if you do get involved and the person is part of your life, then you're going to build this world together. And this is the part where you have to just understand your strengths and weaknesses, because you could be the guy that doesn't like children, but you understand discipline, so you can't take your approach on this child that is growing up like militant. You can't beat the crap out of the kid. But if you can afford to give the kids gift, take them to the park, spend some time buying 'em ice cream, there's an economics behind it, because you're putting the money that you're getting, and instead of spending it on your next kicks, you're putting a down payment on these kids that are with you. So you end up sacrificing certain things just for the fun of having these kids around. Buy them clothes, make them look cool, and they listen to your advice. Sometimes you don't even know it, but they listen. They get it. They know when you're messing up or when you're giving them great advice. It's just how it is. You can like I take the turn of the crazy uncle, right? Because it's not only my kids. When you're around other kids, you just have to focus on everyone that's around. So just because you're a father doesn't mean you're not an uncle. You might be a grandfather. You could. There's a lot of kids around you, so that also is an evolution of being a parent. And you sometimes you want to work it, and what is it to adopt? It's not, it's not bad. So sometimes a person wants to have kids and they don't want to have more kids, or they can't have kids. That's different. It's like a father that is has 6 kids and doesn't have room for more, or a person that wants to have kids, but the partner or them, they can't have the kids yet, but they really want to have kids. I remember when I was in my mid 20s, I wanted to have kids really bad, and when the first partner I was with couldn't have the kids, so we were like, we'll adopt. And I wanted to be a father so bad. And once I became a father, I went balls deep into this fatherhood thing, and I enjoyed it, and I tried to be the best father. But unfortunately, I was going through a chaotic time, so I kind of messed up the whole vibe, the whole experience. But that didn't stop me from continue trying, because I wanted to be a father at all costs. That was the goal, and I still became a father, and that was the key to becoming a father, is just knowing that you can do it, make a difference in some child's life. I always grew up around kids, so for me, it was a lot easier. And I feel like I work with no filter. I try to be the same person, so that as they grow up, they see that I'm still the same. But of course, you can always sit down a child and tell them, like, you got to, this is what you got to do. So as a father, you feel like you should be more of the guy that gives that wisdom. I mean, parents both have to give the wisdom and advice, but when it comes to being a father, you're gonna tell your daughter, this and that. You try to be as open as possible so they can reciprocate and they listen to you. So if you don't have kids, and you want to have kids, and you are dreaming of doing all this with your child, and but you don't want somebody else's kids, you don't want to raise somebody else's kids. I completely understand. There's a lot of people who do not want to raise other people's kids, and that's okay. That's not a problem. You just got to figure out what kind of relationship you want to get in, what type of woman you want to get in, and you know that as time goes by, the person you're with is more likely to have kids, because it's just a matter of time before they get pregnant. Unfortunately, some women get pregnant early in their lives, like at 18, 17, and by the time you find this person in your life at your time, the kids are in their mid, they're 17, 16, 17, and you like, I just started this whole. I'm in my 30s, and already I'm talking to like a 16-year-old. What kind of advice am I going to give 16-year-old? You don't have to give advice to a 16-year-old. I mean, they're already grown. You just lead by example in that situation, because there's nothing you can do. The child is already grown. And another thing is, when should you, like, what should you tell kids? Well, you just don't say anything. Just lead by example. Just don't do crack in front of your kids, or don't do something that you think is irresponsible in front of your kids, so that if they do it, you don't tell them, and try to give them a lesson about the pros and cons of doing something. That's not my car. They're not beeping for me. But I like that someone's honking horns at this time. I would want everybody that wants to have kids, all those fathers that want to have kids, that don't have kids, that are preparing themselves to be parents, not to worry about the time that you don't have to dedicate to the children, because you'll never have time. And as you get older, you have less time actually, because what you don't do in the beginning of your life, you want to do it towards the end, because you realize the gains that you can have. And if you wait too long, you're going to be in your mid 30s and with no kids, right? And that's it's kind of sad, because if you look at it, if you're 35 and you have kids and the child at 10, you're 45, and that's your first child. There's an exhilaration, there's an excitement to it, but by the time they're 20, you're 55, you're on your way out. You're kind of old, you know. If you're 40 and you have your first child, it just add 10 years to that, 50 and then 60. The whole thing is that if you're a parent, I believe that by 55 you should be a grandparent. So looking at 55, you're on your grandparent stage. So that's the evolution. The economics of being a grandparent, I don't know yet, but I am looking forward to that, because I could tell you this: I'm gonna mess up these grandkids. These grandkids are gonna have a lot of crap that I'm gonna get them, and I'm gonna say the most ridiculous stuff. I mean, I'm gonna add planets. Officially, I'm going to add planets. I mean, we only have eight. I'm going to add Pluto to that. And I'm going to tell my grandchildren, that there's actually 13 planets out there, because I don't give a shit. I'm on the AWOL situation where I don't care if I give wrong information to my kids, because I'm old. I am using the wisdom that I've accumulated from Mozart and Enlightenment, and then I'll go into the science and Albert Einstein, and I'll just make up stuff. E = mc squared. I'm like, look, there's also more than just E, you know? There's an F, there's G, there's a G minor in EMC square. I mean squared. What is squared? And I just make up shit. My kids are gonna get the craziest information. And I'll make up shit that I've gone through, you know? I mean, I'm gonna swim through the Nile River and get attacked by piranhas and survived. I could tell you that I will tell my kids that I went to space. There's nothing to it, and that I high-fived a bunch of people. We were, in outer space. We got out and we just high-fived each other, and then we got back in the spaceship. So I'm just waiting for these kids to grow up so that they can hear my ridiculous story. That I used to hang out with Dora the Explorer, and I used to go out on adventures, and that the monkey was a traitor. Period. I'm just gonna make up these stories. When the child is old enough to know that Boots is not really a real character, nor Dora, that's too late. I'm on my way out. So my father, my grandfather experience is going to be amazing. My kids probably won't want me to take care of their kids, but I will make it so that they have no choice, because I'll have everything that they need in my humble abode. And that's just the excitement of being a father. Because at first, you only want to give concrete information. Everything has to be precise. But then you don't understand that sometimes you're not going to be precise. You're just going to have to ad lib and make up some conversation about anything. And that's when you come in as a father, to make sure that everything you say, even though it's a bullshit, it makes sense towards the end, because it's to the greater good as they get older. Don't fight bears. There's a bunch of bears walking in the street. Don't say hi to strangers, because you could get kidnapped. I'm gonna make that's actually a fact sometimes. But talking about that white van running around the street, kids are gonna be scared. You make sure that they know about the white van as they grow up, because that's the key, is making sure that as a parent you do a good job. I'm gonna drink to that, because everybody wants to be a great parent, and especially after this whole debacle of politics and ozone and global warming. Global warming is real for these kids. Now, the topic of not just economics, the topic of technology, the topic of understanding what is coming up, and educating children of what is coming up in the future, prepare them so that when you do die, if you die, if you when, by the time you pass away, they're prepared for the for the future, and that wisdom that you gave them, no matter how stupid it was, they could pass it on to their kids, so that your grandkids in 3005 are talking about Dora the Explorer and your grandfather fighting with boots over shit. So you just got to make up some stories. I know I have stories that it will be passed down from generation to generations because I made up some shit, but most of it is concrete because I did go through a lot of crazy shit. As a father, my job, or as an uncle, is to advise and give crazy information based on true story, though. And I love giving stories because that's my thing. I'm a storyteller. You might not be, but you can be one. You just don't know your potential. Being a father is not about being the best of the best of the best. It's just being there just when they need you, and you know when they need you. You could tell. You could tell the signs. You could, you're in school. They're in school, and they're worried. They're getting bullied or something. Sometimes you just got to man up and just be there. But it's not set in stone that you have to be perfect or have to say the right thing. You have to be concerned. You want your child to be good. You want education. You want the child, if they have a problem, you can see, you know your child, so you know that if they're dyslexic, or let's say you're a father, and you notice that they might be gay, they might, then your journey and the way you approach them has to change. But the joy of watching them change and listen and work it, and someone sometimes being successful, and if they're not successful, you're there for that part when everything goes downhill. As a father, that's your job, just to make sure that the ball rolls and just shape it and let it go all the way to the end. And as long as you can maneuver this marble going down this journey, you're going to try to do your best. There's a point when they no longer want you to maneuver, and that's when they turn 14, 15. If some of them, they're like, yo, dad, leave me alone, man. You suck balls. And then you accept it. Overall, though, as a father, you have been doing a great job. If you notice that your child is sick and you could tell what type of medicine to give them, if you know if they're allergic to stuff, you know you're a great father when you know what their favorite food is. You know you're a great father when they want to watch a movie with you because they feel like mommy sucks watching movies. You know you're a great father when they hate you when you give them advice, because your advice, no matter how stupid, they don't agree with it, but they know that eventually they'll know that you gave them some type of advice. And pushing them, you know you don't want to be the best friend. My When I'm teaching my kids, like just in sports, I'm hard and working out and eating. I have no mercy. I want them to fear me, if anything, with all the information I'm giving them, because it has to be for the greater good, and I don't want them to mess around. I want them to stay focused in school. So you, as a parent, have to be part. As a father, you have to be part of the highs and lows. And even though you think you're not ready, you are ready. You don't know, because no one knows when they're ready, and you're never too late. And of course, the final chapter is why even try to have kids, right? Well, at one point in your life, you're gonna notice that your lineage, your who you are, everything you do, if you're lucky, if you're able to have kids, you pass it on, these traits, and you can continue what they will call a legacy, right? A family. You have houses, you can't, you can leave it to cats, you can leave it to your dogs, you can leave it to your animals, you can leave it for any. If you can't have kids, it's a different situation. It's a whole different ballgame. But if you're a father, or if you want to become a father, the purpose of being a parent is not just to raise kids, but also to leave a family tree behind and continue this family tree. And sometimes in modern age, it's not even about your last name. Sometimes they don't even want to keep the last name, because the modern woman today sometimes just wants, to have her father's last name, and you're as the parent, you could co-sign on that. It doesn't matter. What counts is that you have someone that might look like you or does have the same tendencies, and you want that person to grow up and at one point have more offspring and continue this lineage where for hundreds of years, with all the videos that are on Instagram and Facebook, they can see, they're like, oh, that's grandpa. This is great grandpa. And there's a story behind it. Of course, at the end, If you're a father, try to educate your children on your grandparents, on your grandfather, your great grandfather. Pass it back. Go back in time to educate them about the good and the beautiful things that there are, that they are because it's in them, and all the great stories. You can make up stuff. Like I could tell my kids I was running. I ran almost as fast as a car. We were, there was a car. There was a race, a quarter mile, and I had a. There was a guy that he forgot his glasses, and I ran behind him. And while he was racing in the quarter mile, I was able to pass him his glasses. He could put the glasses on because he couldn't see, and finish the quarter mile on his 911 turbo. So that's it. I'm just as fast as a Porsche. That's what I'm gonna tell people. I run like that, like a gazelle. Uh, so that's the idea. Is if you're a father, congratulations, and be proud of what you're doing. If you're not a father yet, think about it. Don't be afraid. Of course, this is with age. You have to be able to sustain a relationship, or you should be able to afford if as much as you can. And that all goes with personal challenges and goals. That's a whole different game. But as a parent, don't be afraid. And of course, we could always hit the part where you want to get a vasectomy and then not have kids. Period. But that's a whole different situation because you want to save yourself from paying child support, and that's a different topic. Right now, the topic is just becoming a father, raising your father, being the best, and understanding that as a father you could do so much, and there's so much joy behind watching a child joy where the child is successful or sick, and you're going to be there, and the part of love that you give to this child and the warmth is what makes it all worth it. So with that said, I'm going to continue drinking. It's coming soon, and of course congratulations to the Denver, that they won a championship, and the Nuggets are the team to beat. Now on to this crappy ass sports, which is baseball. It's coming soon, and we're just gonna have to enjoy baseball now for the next few weeks. Hopefully, we have something else. UFC is going pretty crazy, but besides that, it's summertime. Get in the beach, take your kids out. Grill something, cook something like a hamburger. If you mess up cooking it, they're gonna eat it anyway. Tell them that's good for them. That's healthy to eat burnt charcoal hamburgers because you just forgot because you were talking too much shit about your days when you were fighting Dora the Explorer in boots. All right. So with that said, stay established, stick with your goals, discipline, enjoy. And I'm Rob D, and I'm going to say goodbye. All right. Take care.